And so module one is going to be sort of Tover 101. Think about the nuts and bolts, the day-to-day user interface. Module two is going to be new content, customization, engagement. And then module three, we're going to talk about staff buy-in and your desired wellness outcome. So all really topical subjects to discuss. We have 30 minutes to cover everything. And it's a lot to discuss in 30 minutes. So, I encourage you all to follow up with me if you have specific questions, or go to your MyTover account if you'd like to dig into some of the resources there. But I think the most important takeaway is that we're here to provide support for the long term of your use, and you can always schedule a refresher training with me on the link in my email signature. So let's talk about Tover 101, the good stuff as it relates to the technical implementation. So one of the questions that I get asked frequently is, how do I power the unit on and off, for example? So what you want to do with your unit is, we always start with our handy dandy remote, right? That is your single point of use for powering the unit on and off unless you're moving it. So you don't want to turn the unit on and off using the main power switch at the top of the unit. You want to use your remote control. And we're going to talk about the user interface as a whole. So let's get started right away. First thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about calibration of the playing surface. So if you look at my screen right here, I have selected the green edge at the very top, and I can move that around. I can contract and expand it. I'm going to see that here. See how I'm shrinking it down? Now that's a really valuable way to create a custom experience for your resident. You can also move the table that's being played on, move it away, and you can actually project a game on the ground. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. I'm going to give you a specific example. And again, that function is in your Calibrate Playing Surface tab within Settings as a whole. One of the things that I'm encouraging folks to do is go to your Info tab at some point or another. Just make sure that your serial number is written down. The other important subject that we want to talk about is your Tovertafel software update. So right now we are running version 18.6.0. Anything less than that requires a software update. There's a couple different ways you can do it. You can go right here to update. Now I have updated the unit, so I don't have to do that right now. I am up to speed on my update, but for anybody who is not on this particular version, 18.6.0, you're going to want to update your unit. To update your unit, you're going to have to select your network, and you're going to have to be online for that. Connectivity is required for software updates and new game downloads. So you can use a guest Wi-Fi connection. It's really ultimately up to you. You can use a hotspot as well. But the recommendation is to keep the unit online for updates. You don't need to be online to play the games as a whole. That's quite convenient for a lot of people. So I also want to touch on sensor calibration. So I have a Tovertafel 2. It's a second generation unit. That unit requires this sheet of paper to calibrate the sensor. Now, for the Tovertafel 3s, the computer is actually doing that, right? So in this instance, I'm going to just start the calibration. I'm going to hold the piece of paper in these 4 quadrants, and then I'm going to update it that way. Now, the reason sensor calibration is important is because the sensor speaks to the computer. So if you can imagine a scenario, I'm going to show you a specific example right here. This is a fish game from level 2. The sensors are going to pick up that movement of my hand. Now, if I'm holding my hand out and the fish aren't swimming by, or even better yet, you see the food forming on my hand, the fish coming by to nibble it. If that's not happening, the reason is because the sensors need to be calibrated. So the sensors are infrared sensors, and they pick up even the most minute movements. It could be centimeters of movement, of space, and so forth. That is the magic of the Tover, in the sense that even for residents who have maybe severe arthritis, challenges with mobility, and so forth, they are still going to be able to play. And as Teepa Snow famously says, the Tover is failure-free, meaning that is very much a democratized platform that's accessible to many, many different people. So We have talked briefly about the setup, calibration, and I want to talk about troubleshooting for a minute. So let's say that your unit doesn't have sound, or let's say that it's unable to update. Well, a reset is important. But if you continue to have challenges in that respect, please reach out to us. We're happy to provide direct assistance. For the most part, the software updates should resolve the issue. Now, if you have a unit that, and it happens on occasion, suffers a little bit of damage in transit, that's something we would address as well. The most common challenge faced by folks is the fact that they need a software update. Best practices include having a light projection surface. If you've got a dark table, it's going to absorb some of that color. It's not really going to reflect those high contrast graphics as much as we'd like. So you want to typically have a light table. You can use a tablecloth. If you happen to have a dark table, then we want you to set it to dark table in terms of the table color, right? But light color, that's optimum. Think of light as bright, what I like to say. For the most part, that is going to be where you spend most of your time. And this is really, the settings function is fairly critical in terms of the day-to-day, but you're not really going to spend that much time here, frankly. You're going to spend most of your time here on all games. So let's talk briefly about customization. And customization is such a really wonderful way to engage your residents in a variety of manners. To have customization, you need to have a Toverlab, a MyTover account. And that's very straightforward. If you don't have one already, we can set one up for you. We would just need your unit serial number and the email address of the administrator you want. You can have multiple administrators if you want. So once you go to MyTover, you're able to access your Toverlab account. And within Toverlab, you are able to upload images as much as you want. There's really no limit on images. So this is the Carlton family, and they were very gracious. They loaned us some of their photographs, their family photographs. Mrs. Carlton is a retiree, and she is in memory care, and she loves to paint. And so what you can see here is that she's able to actually paint her own photograph, she can paint her own canvas. And I'm using a prop here, obviously a paintbrush. And it's a really lovely way to engage families when they're visiting on the weekends, residents themselves. And to give you some examples, if you have somebody who maybe loves photography, or you have a veteran, or somebody who's interested in recipes and food or the great outdoors, you can upload all of those pictures and customize 5 games. Those games are all right here at the very, very top of your navigation pane. So MyTover gives you the opportunity to customize 5 different games. And you can do it a couple different ways. You can upload those images through your MyTover account, or you can do it using your phone. Now, most people will opt to use their internet connection on their laptop to do this. It is my recommended approach as well. I just think it's a little bit easier to navigate that menu. And again, the point ultimately is that the sky's the limit in terms of what you upload. Now, for a game like Memo, you're going to have the opportunity to upload any image you want, obviously, but because the size is going to be smaller, you probably want to go with images that have a neutral background. They could be icons and what have you. For a game like Puzzle, you can add your images, again, as I mentioned, and that's going to give you the opportunity to create a customized experience. Now, I like to discuss Puzzle because so many people love assembling puzzles. It's such a great source of fun and cognitive care. But for those residents who have challenges with maybe just the puzzle pieces themselves, the option is for you to take a picture of whatever puzzle they happen to really love and enjoy, and you can upload it to your account, and then they can create that puzzle during a play session. So you can see right here, I'm doing it, the same manner that you'd probably do it at your community. Now, one of the things I should point out is that MyTover is currently on its side. So it's maybe a little bit different from what you'd see when you traditionally have the Tover overhead. Well, that's sort of the flexibility of the Tover that we love to talk about as well, that you can place it on its side if you so desire. Okay, so one of the questions that we've had recently is new games. When are the new games coming? What's the theme? What's happening with new games? So I'm really happy to share a recent update that Tover is actively working on 3 new games. They're going to be sports themed games. They're in development right now. They're going to roll them out primarily in Europe and Australia first, and then here in the US. The reason they roll them out in those places first is that they want to test them out. They want to resolve any bugs, potential issues they have, because the US is obviously where, we're an enormous country with a lot of Tovers. And so you can expect those new games to start rolling out probably late October, November. When that happens, we'll schedule a training session to bring you up to speed. But I'm really excited by the new games. Tover is fastidious when it comes to new game development, from the perspective that they don't release anything that has not been tested repeatedly. The attitude at Tover, the underlying philosophy is that a game must meet the resident where they are. Any game that is going to be excessively confusing or potentially agitating is not something that is ever released. So again, we're excited about that. And we think that this is going to be a really unique opportunity to do some training, to get people excited about new games and so forth. So one of the questions that had also come up was floor versus table projection. So one of the things I want to discuss right now is, as you saw before, let's go here. We're going to look at the soccer game. So this is a popular game in terms of floor projection. For obvious reasons, people love to use their feet when playing soccer, and the game itself, it lends itself really well to surface play. So you can kind of see here that there's a specific reason that that area is neutral. That is to say, you don't see grass. This does not look like a soccer turf. What you see here is a neutral background with high contrast graphics. So that ball is going to react in a way that a soccer ball might during a match. It's going to jitter all over the place. I'm going to have to really get involved, and I'm going to have to, interact with my opponent here to get the ball going in and out. Now, one thing that's important to point out is because of the zoom filter, you can't hear the background sound, but sound design is an integral part of the player experience. And so when players are playing and they score a goal, you're going to hear that loud cheering. Can't score against myself today, but that's all right. So you're going to hear that loud cheering, and it gets people really motivated. And so now that we've looked at this particular game, let's go back up to our settings function. And when we do that, we're going to touch on calibration of the actual playing surface. Okay, so you saw this before. We touched on it briefly. But again, this is a great example of how I could change the settings to conform with the playing surface. So there's my green line at the very top. That's my border. I'm just going to take my remote. I'm going to click up. And I pretty much reached the apex of that area, but can reduce it. So in this instance, think of the Tover's projection space is going to be impacted by the height of the unit's installation. So the higher up the unit goes, the larger your playing canvas, and vice versa. If it's low to the ground or lower to the ground, you're going to have a reduced play area. So it's kind of finding that happy medium. It's going to be the way to go ultimately. Now, again, you can customize it based on whatever requirements you have. One of the things I like to share as well is there are some games that are really well suited for single residents. So let's say, again, you've removed the table completely, right? And you've got a projection space on the ground. You have a resident who might want to relive walking, on a flat, leaf carpeted forest floor. The ladybugs are going to fly away as we kind of disturb their rest here. The point ultimately is that, we can get very creative in terms of how we deploy the Tover and in what location of your community and how it conforms or complements, different resident play experiences and desires. I had one of the great questions we got today was, how do I engage residents who might be agitated? So when you think of agitation, it takes on so many different forms, right? It can be aggression, inappropriate behavior. I mean, the gamut is really out there. So evening lights, terrific way to start to get your residents ready for the evening. And there's a beautiful, very nuanced accompaniment here in terms of the sound. So evening lights is just absolutely lovely in terms of ambient light and sound. And again, you're going to see how I place my hands on the surface here. And when I move my hand, the light moves with me. So a resident could be placed directly underneath it if you wanted to move the table away, or you could have a group of residents playing together. Now, the computer is going to assess the number of people playing and the amount of time they're playing, and it's going to reset that surface. So you're going to have different colors appear over a period of time, different hues of pinks and greens and so forth. You can apply that same practice to other games like Flowers. Flowers is a very, very straightforward game. And really, we should classify it as a program because it doesn't have a formal start or stop period. All I'm doing here is placing my hand on the canvas, and that flower is going to expand with my touch. It's a very practical way of deploying, different resident experiences throughout the day and then the evening. And then closing it out, you've got space. Terrific game to activate as the sun is going down. We're heading into fall and obviously winter. The days are going to be shorter. So you can start your day out with the lovely leaves or a trip to the beach. And then, you can activate this particular program right here. One of the things you can do as well is, let's say it's 3 p.m, and you just want to create some leisurely time for people. Maybe you have a shift change or somebody is out for the day. You can click shuffle, and it's going to play each game at each level for 5 minutes. I'm going to do that again. Scroll to the left, and that's my icon for shuffle right here. So again, I click on the shuffle button, and it's going to launch each game for 5 minutes at a time. And then it's going to switch to the next game. Okay, let's talk about wellness, staff buy-in, and wellness outcomes. I think this is such an important topic, and frankly, it gets overlooked at times. So one of the things that's really critical for successful deployment of the Tover is engaging your staff, making sure they're using it in a structured manner, and really explaining to them that level 2, these are physical, social, sensory games. And then if I want to create a little bit more of a challenging environment, a linear-based game, if you will, I can go to level 3. The question before had been, how do I engage my residents? Well, one very practical way to do that, which also can incorporate people who are tasked with physical therapy, occupational therapy, maybe it is a variety of cognitive care functions. In this instance, props are absolutely invaluable. And props are going to do a couple of different things. One, they're going to create a direct physical connection, and they're going to help your residents, those that might have limited mobility, they're going to help them navigate the game and allow them to participate, right? Failure free, as Tipa says. And so you see in this instance, I'm taking a handy dandy pool noodle. You saw me use a paintbrush before. Now I'm taking a pool noodle to extend that reach. And it's going to give me that fine motor skill exercise that I'm looking for. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to apply a slightly heavier weight-bearing prop. In this instance, this is your standard rolling pin, but it's got a nice vinyl bottom. And so I can take this rolling pin and I can actually knead the dough just like that. It's going to give me that nice bilateral motion. So if I'm an OT or an RN and I really want to get those residents leaning forward, I want to do something with them that is task-based, that has a positive outcome, that gets them that feeling of success because they achieved a goal. This is a really great way to do it. And you can apply props to so many different modalities. And certainly, I defer to our partners in senior care because you're experts in your respective fields. And, you're going to know which prop makes sense for which resident and which scenario. Again, terrific way to get people engaged. And it's also highly effective during family visits. So you get those kids away from their cell phones, right? Because that is such a challenge, right? Everybody wants to be on their phone, and maybe it's a little bit awkward. But if you can, work with a family member to bake a loaf of bread and then enjoy that, the fruits of our labor afterwards, that's a great way to kind of break the ice, get people engaged. And again, really provide folks with a variety of options for exercise. I'm going to show you one more example of a prop that I really like. And these are themed games, right? So let's say it's 10:30 in the morning. You want to get people ready for lunchtime. You want to stimulate appetite. You want to get them a little bit enthusiastic about the upcoming meal, because everybody loves mealtime. And I'm sure you get that question, all day long. What are we eating next? So this is a great way to kind of prime people. Well, lunch is being served in an hour. Ahead of that, why don't we set a table together? So you see me take this kind of ordinary household object, right? It's a cleaning cloth, and I can apply that to each of these different implements. And what will happen is when I'm done polishing all this silverware, and I'm a fastidious cleaner. I love cleaning. I'm one of those people that just I could do it all day. You'll see that it's going to set the table. Table's going to be set with a delicious entree. They're going to tap on that each of those items, and then it's going to reset that table. So in terms of props and functionality, there's a variety of ways to do that. In some instances, you can actually get into props like a fly swatter. Everybody loves a fly swatter game. It's often overlooked, in terms of really getting people moving. So my recommendation is think of a fly swatter as a great way to get people, get them tired out, frankly. So maybe it's, after lunchtime, you want to have that activity that gets people moving, gets that motion. This is a great game to play as a group. You can see that I accidentally swatted the pie right there. So I'm swatting these flies. I'm taking them out of commission. There they go. Now, if I play for 20 minutes or more, the computer is going to start to assess that it wants to make the game more challenging. So it's actually going to require that you swat those flies more than once. So we talked briefly about shuffle mode. What I want to highlight as well is that you can apply shuffle mode to all the games. All you do is scroll to the very, very bottom of your screen, and you'll see the icon right there, and you can shuffle every game regardless of level. And again, you can shuffle the games based on level-specific games. So level 2, physical, social, and sensory. Level 3, you're going to start to get into more task-based games. Some of them involve syntax. Level 4, there's going to be more movement. You're going to start to have games that are syntax-based. Wordsmith is a great example. So this is a game that requires context and multiple attempts generally to get that letter in the right place. What you'll see here is that I am tapping on the incorrect letter. All it does is remove that tile from the playing field. And when I select the correct letter, I get that nice little auditory cue, which I know you can't hear right now, and that little star. If you're looking for a curated experience, you can go up here, just navigate your menu and go to collections. And when you click on collections, what you're going to see are bundles of games based on level. So as the levels increase, so does the challenge. So your highest acuity residents may have some real challenges with a level 4 and 5 game, but that should not preclude you from involving them. One of the things that I have found repeatedly is that challenging games work really well with high acuity residents. They seem to be especially motivated to give it a try. And what I found as well, which I just love, is that their other residents will support their efforts. And so what you'll see is that they start to collaborate with each other. They start to fill in the gaps. They support each other during the general process. Movement games, for example, you'll see right here, these are all level 2. Great way to start your day out as a morning icebreaker. People are walking around, they're moving. You might have people who are pacing and agitated. This is a really terrific way to redirect that energy. So you can set a level 2 game, you can set that particular bundle of games and just let it go. You can walk away. These games, again, as I mentioned, are self-directed. And you're going to start to get into other level games. As I mentioned previously, level 4, those are going to be a little bit more challenging in terms of physical movement and motion. They do start to require timing, coordination, and so forth. And one point which I think is really lovely to bring up, not just with the care team, but with your sales and marketing folks and families as well, is that all these details were meticulously thought out by Tover. They're not random. So when you see that wood grain, when you see that kind of cracked finish in the marbles, all of it is intentional. All of it is designed to create an emotional connection with your residents. It's a lovely way to reminisce with them. And I'm now going to close it out by talking about insights. You know, there's that old saying, right? You can't see what you don't measure, or something to that effect. I'm sure I'm mangling the phrase. Point ultimately is measurement is really critical, in my opinion, in terms of ensuring that your residents and your care team, your life enrichment folks, CNAs, and what have you, are actually using the game in a structured manner. So you can click on Insights. What it's going to do is give you an update on what game is being played the most at any given moment. And it does reset on a regular basis. So what you'll see is that I like to have it on the background. It's on for 2 hours. So I tend to set it. I like it as a soothing background because life is so hectic, right? And so I have it going, and then popular time to play. So that time is set to European time. It's hard-coded. It's a Dutch thing, I suppose, ultimately. So you just want to subtract 7 hours. That's going to give you a sense of when it's being played. You can also click on the all-time favorites. That's going to aggregate the top 3 games that you're playing at any given time, along with an aggregate of the time that it's being played in. And again, our popular time to play. So that concludes today's webinar. Again, I want to sincerely thank you for joining, for spending the time with us. We are so grateful for our partnership with you. And in fact, I'll leave you with one last thing. This is my butterfly journal. It's a great way to get your residents engaged. You give them each a journal. You play the butterfly game together. They have to capture butterflies with the journal. And then you can write down their thoughts together and keep an active journal of your experiences together. So again, we appreciate your time, appreciate our partnership, and look forward to a continuing success with your Tovertafel journey.